Most state taxing authorities follow a collection process that is similar to that of the IRS. Since it might put you to sleep to have to sit through an explanation of 50 different states, I'm going to focus on the IRS collection process. The states are usually similar. The simplest way I can think of to explain the IRS collection process in general terms is to use what I call the IRS collection river analogy. Here it is. When you fail to meet a tax obligation, you have waded into what I call the IRS river. At first, the waters are calm. You can quickly catch up on your underpayment and/or file and pay your late return, and you're back on shore. You might have to pay some penalties and some interest, but you're out of the river and you're out of danger. If you don't fix it quickly, you start floating down the river. You might get some notices asking you to pay or file, and you might accrue some penalties and interest. But other than that, no problem. If you can at least start paying your current taxes on time and file any late returns, you or your local CPA might have a relatively easy time resolving the tax debt that you incurred, particularly if you have the ability to pay it off quickly. Consult with a tax professional to make sure you aren't in danger. If you haven't made it back to shore, the river will eventually start to get a little rough, and the IRS may file a notice of federal tax lien against you or your business. This creates a public record, and anyone who wants to know whether you've been paying your taxes can check the public records and find out that you didn't pay. The tax lien can also hurt your credit, and if you are a business owner, the lien can potentially hurt your relationships with your customers, vendors, lenders, or other creditors. I think that most people start to get pretty uncomfortable about their float down the river at this point. It's no fun anymore. This is about the time when many people, particularly business owners, might consider whether they wish to continue representing themselves. If they already have representation, they may wish to consider upgrading from their existing representative to someone who has far more experience dealing with the even nastier waters up ahead. As you continue down the river, you may find yourself in Class 3 rapids soon. A human being from the IRS might start giving you a hard time. The IRS might start setting deadlines or making demands that you might not be prepared to meet. You might start seeing intent to levy notices showing up in your mailbox. If you haven't found an actual tax resolution professional, one who more or less works tax debt collection cases most or all of his working hours, this is a very good time to consider it. There is danger up ahead, your safety could be at risk soon, and you should think long and hard about whether to go it alone, whether to stick with a less experienced river guide, such as a typical local CPA, or whether you should bring in a guide who has traveled the rest of the river hundreds or even thousands of times. If you get into compliance with the tax laws now, an experienced tax resolution professional ought to be able to get you back to shore in decent shape, particularly if you do not procrastinate. You might also have important appeal rights that could expire if you aren't paying attention. Pay attention. Your appeal rights potentially could save your business or your financial life. If you haven't already, I strongly encourage you to seek advice from at least one or two professionals who resolve back taxes for a living. If you act soon enough, your fee to a tax resolution professional should be relatively low. If you wait, you may find yourself with a very costly, painful, and potentially disastrous problem. Continuing down the river, if you still haven't resolved your back tax liabilities, or worse yet, you are still accruing more tax liabilities, and you have one or more human beings from the IRS after you, there are flat-out dangerous and potentially lethal Class 5 rapids up ahead. A skilled and experienced guide is now more important than ever because, I hate to tell you, you look like you might be heading into the section of the river where people get hurt and some get hurt badly. Okay, let's say you still haven't found your way back to shore. You're now in the Class 5 rapids, and enforcement has either started or is becoming a real possibility. Your bank accounts could get frozen, and business owners, they like to freeze bank accounts a day or two before payroll, when they know that you'll probably have some money in the bank. I suggest that if your bank account gets frozen before payroll, you will have some very unhappy employees. If you are a wage earner, your paychecks could get garnished. Business owners with accounts receivable, watch out. They can levy your receivables and you've got a very serious problem. They basically send an official notice of levy to your customers or other receivables and tell them more or less that whatever your customers owe you must now be sent directly to the IRS to be applied to the taxes that you did not pay. This is a double whammy. Now your cash flow has been cut off and your customers are running for the hills. It's bad, bad news. Believe it or not, a very good tax resolution professional can still often get you out of this mess, but it will typically cost more than it would have had you acted earlier. If you are a business owner and you don't have the right guide, there is a decent chance that you might not even make it past this phase of the river. The repetitive enforcement actions against your banks and or your receivables is oftentimes enough to put you out of business without even having to go through the process of seizure. This brings me to the last phase of the river, the 500-foot waterfall. The IRS has had enough, and they want to seize your non-exempt assets, which could include all of your business assets. The business that you have poured your heart into for God knows how many years goes bye-bye. Your employees are out of work. You're probably having a very difficult time making ends meet. And you might be visiting a bankruptcy attorney if you have a lot of non-tax creditors. And if you didn't pay your 941 trust taxes, there's a very good chance that the IRS will be coming for you personally if they haven't started already. If you find an excellent tax resolution pro before going over the waterfall, you actually still have hope. But the chances of saving you are going to be lower than they would have been had you brought in an excellent professional earlier. Also, the professional is going to have to work like crazy in order to try to save you. And when professionals have to work like crazy, you can expect a large fee. I hope that my river analogy gave you a general idea of your location right now on the IRS river. A good tax resolution professional should be able to pinpoint your location, help you avoid the dangers, and get you back to shore in one piece.